Hello students, this is Professor C. Tanuja Bhati from Jain College of Engineering, Belagavi, Department of MBA. Today, we will be beginning with the revision lectures on subject indirect taxation. As we know that indirect taxation subject covers 60% theory and 40% problems. So initially we will be beginning our video lectures on only those modules where problems are covered. So modules where problems are covered are module number 2, levy and collection of tax, where you will be having simple problems on calculation of value of taxable supply and GST levy. Module number 3, time and value of supply, where you will be having simple problems on time of supply, place of supply, value of supply. And module number 5, introduction to customs duty, where you will be having problems on valuation of imported goods. So in this video lecture, we will be covering module number 2, and I have named this as IT Problems Module 2. That is, IT stands for Indirect Taxation Problems Module 2. So basically, this video lecture is completely on problems relating to Module 2, Levy and Collection of Tax. Before we begin with solving problems, we need to understand certain concepts which are going to help us solve the problems. So if we are thorough with these concepts, we can easily solve any problem on this module. So first, let us understand what are the different types of GST taxes. As we know, the different types of GST taxes are CGST, SGST, IGST, UTGST and compensation cess. But we generally don't know when which type of taxes is to be applied or levied. Levied is nothing but applying the taxes. So let us see. So on my left hand side, you can see the transactions, and on the right hand side, you can see for a particular type of transaction, which type of GST taxes is levied. That is visible on the right hand side. So first, if the supply takes place within the state, so when the supply is taking place within the state, you charge CGST plus SGST. Now CGST stands for Central Goods and Service Tax and SGST stands for State Goods and Service Tax. Now what do you mean by supply takes place within the state? Suppose if I am a supplier and I am supplying the goods from a state of Karnataka and I am selling the goods to a purchaser who is in Karnataka, since the sale is within the state, I am going to charge as a supplier, I will be charging in my invoice CGST plus SGST. Next, if supply takes place in a union territory, see, we know that India is divided into state as well as union territory. Union territory is like Chandigarh, Lakshadweep, Diu and Daman, Dadra and Nagar Haveli, Andaman and Nicobar. So suppose if any sale is taking place, okay, if the supplier is from Diu and Daman and is selling the goods to a purchaser who is residing in Diu and Daman. So it is a supply that is taking place within the union territory. So therefore, the supplier is going to charge which type of GST taxes? CGST plus UTGST. That is Union Territory Goods and Service Tax. Now, if supply takes place outside the state, only one GST tax is going to be charged, that is IGST, and IGST stands for Integrated Goods and Service Tax. Now, if supply takes place outside the state, for example, a supplier is from the state of Karnataka and he is selling the goods to a purchaser who is belonging to Maharashtra. Now, Karnataka and Maharashtra are two different states, so the sale is taking place outside the state, that is from Karnataka to Maharashtra. Therefore, the supplier is going to charge IGST. Next, if supply is of notified goods, see what do you mean by notified goods? Notified goods are those goods which will be notified by the government. Mostly these goods belong to the luxury and demerit category. Now why I have covered this? Because government on certain notified goods, that is only those goods which will be specified by the government, has to be charged compensation cess. On all the goods, compensation cess is not there. Only on those goods which are specified by the government, only on those goods compensation cess shall be levied. So on certain luxury and demerit products, government has levied compensation cess. Now luxury products, for example, like vehicles, like for example Jeep Compass. On Jeep Compass, government is charging a compensation cess. Or demerit products like sinful products, harmful products like tobacco, government is charging compensation cess. So first, suppose if it is a notified goods, then if sale takes place within the state, you're going to charge CGST plus SGST plus compensation cess only and only if it is a notified product that is belonging to luxury and demerit category. Now if sale takes place within the union territory, obviously you know it is CGST plus UTGST plus compensation cess because this is a notified goods that is belonging to the luxury and demerit category. If sale takes place outside the state, obviously IGST plus compensation cess. So compensation cess is charged only on those products which are specified by the government, and usually these are those products which are of luxury category or sinful category, like demerit category, harmful category. Next, GST rates. Now you know that there are several GST rates. There is 0%, 5%, 12%, 18%. But what is the amount of rate that has to be charged for a particular transaction? Let us see. As we know, GST rates are 0%, 3%, 5%, 12%, 18% and 28%. And as and when by notification, government also specifies some other rates. So, how are these rates to be applied? So, suppose if the sale is taking place within the state, whatever is the rate, you give 50% of that rate to CGST and 50% of that rate to SGST. Now, suppose if the rate is 3%, you will give 1.5%, you will charge it under CGST, and 1.5% you will charge it under SGST. Similarly, for 5%, if the sale is within the state, you will charge 50% of the rate is to be charged equally between CGST and SGST, and so on. Now, if the sale is outside the state, we know we charge IGST. So, IGST is to be charged at 100% of the rate. So, IGST is charged, if it is 0%, complete 0%. If it is 3%, complete 3% is charged to IGST. If it is 5%, complete 5% is charged to IGST, and so on. Compensation cess shall be levied at 100% of the rate specified as composition cess on notified goods. Suppose if the compensation cess is 15%, so you're not going to break up, you're going to completely charge 15% as compensation cess. So 100% of 15% is to be charged as compensation cess. Next. Now GST charge. GST charge means usually when a supplier is issuing invoice, he will give an invoice which is inclusive GST and which is exclusive GST. Now it is very important for you all to understand what is the meaning of inclusive GST and what is the meaning of exclusive GST. Let us see. Inclusive means the value includes GST. Suppose I am supplying certain product. I am a supplier and I am supplying certain products to XYZ. Now I am supplying the product at rupees 50,000. So if a particular person is asking me, and suppose I am supplying cell phones, the purchaser is asking me for what is the amount of cell phone, and I am saying it is 50,000 inclusive taxes. Means what? In this 50,000, taxes are included. So inclusive means whatever value the supplier is charging from the purchaser, it includes the taxes, includes the GST. Exclusive, on the other hand, means the value is exclude GST. Like suppose if I'm saying that the value of the cell phone is 50,000, but it is exclusive the tax. I have to still add the tax. I have not yet added the tax. This is exclusive the tax. And how to calculate? Now, if it is inclusive GST, then you need to know what is the basic value on which you have charged GST. So how you will calculate the value? Value is the basic price excluding GST. So it is nothing but, this is the formula, value inclusive GST divided by 100 plus rate of GST into 100. This will help you get the taxable value. Now in case of exclusive GST, the value is readily available. Next, calculation of GST. How will you calculate the GST portion? Since the value is including 50,000 is having the basic value also plus the GST amount. So you have to bifurcate to understand how much is the GST and how much is the taxable value. So in case we want to know what is the GST value, it is value inclusive GST divided by 100 plus rate of GST into GST rate. And in case of exclusive GST, obviously we have the value, suppose 50,000, which is exclusive GST. You charge the GST rate on that, you will get the amount of GST. So let us see an example to make this concept more clear. Suppose the value is 50,000 and it is inclusive GST. Like this 50,000 has the basic price plus a GST, and this 50,000 is the amount that you're going to collect it from the customer. GST rate is 5%. Now you want to know what is the basic price. Basic price is nothing but what is the taxable value and what is the GST in this 50,000. So how will you do it? How to calculate the price, that is the taxable value? Amount inclusive GST, that is 50,000 divided by 100 plus rate of GST. Now 100 plus rate of GST is 5%, so it is 105 into 100. You get 47,619. Now how do you calculate GST? It is 50,000, that is value inclusive GST, divided by 100 plus rate of GST, which is 105, into GST rate, which is 5%. You get 2,381 as the GST rate. So total value charged from the customer is 50,000, out of which the basic price is 47,619 and the GST is 2,381. So whenever in the problem it is mentioned that the value is inclusive GST, then you got to understand that this value includes the tax as well as the basic fare or the basic value. Next, let us see the example of exclusive GST. So the value is 50,000, the GST rate is 5%. So the price is 50,000. Now this is exclusive GST, means still tax is not levied on this 50,000. So obviously if you want to calculate GST on this 50,000, you do 50,000 into 5%, 2,500, you get the GST amount. So total value that you're going to charge from the customer is the basic price, which is 50,000, and GST amount, that is 2,500. So total amounts to 52,500. So in exclusive GST, the price is nothing but the taxable value or the basic price on which you have to still charge GST. Still GST is not charged, and after charging GST, the total of it is going to be collected from the customer. I hope you have understood this concept of inclusive and exclusive GST. Now in your problems, it will be specifically mentioned whether the value or the amount is inclusive GST or exclusive GST. If it is not mentioned, if the problem is silent as to whether the value is inclusive GST or exclusive GST, by default, consider it to be exclusive GST. Next, now we have understood all the concepts which are going to help us solve the problems on module number 2. So let us start solving the problems. So let us see problems on calculation of value of taxable supply and GST levy. Problem number 1. Mr. Kumar, a manufacturer from Mumbai, supplied goods to XYZ Enterprises Limited of Sangli. Here, the at rupees 50,000 exclusive tax. So here Mr. Kumar is the supplier, okay, and XYZ Enterprises is the receiver, or you can tell the purchaser, and the amount 50,000 is exclusive GST, means this is the value on which still we have to charge the tax. The applicable GST rate is 18%. Calculate the amount of GST to be paid by Mr. Kumar. Usually you know that the supplier collects the GST amount from the receiver and he pays to the government. So that is why it is called indirect tax. Where the purchaser is not directly paying it to the government, the supplier is collecting the tax amount from the purchaser and the supplier will pay it to the government on behalf of the purchaser. Okay, moving ahead. So what they are telling, calculate what is the amount of GST to be paid. So since it is exclusive tax, calculation of amount of GST to be paid by Mr. Kumar. Here in our problem, Mr. Kumar is the supplier. Transaction value is already given, 50,000. Now you have to see, Kumar is from Mumbai and the purchaser is from Sangli. Now Mumbai and Sangli both belong to the same state, Maharashtra, and we have already seen in our concepts that if the sale is taking place within the same state, then you charge CGST and SGST. Now what is the rate? 18%. Now 18% under CGST and SGST, 50% of the rate is to be charged under CGST and the remaining 50% of the rate is to be charged under SGST. So CGST at the rate of 9% and SGST of the rate of 9%. Now this is always charged on the transaction value. Transaction value is 50,000, therefore 50,000 into 9 divided by 100 is 4,500. Similarly, SGST at the rate of 9% is 50,000 into 9 divided by 100, which is 4,500. So what is the total invoice value? It will be 50,000, that is the basic price, that is the transaction value, that is the taxable value, plus the taxes, 4,500 under CGST, 4,500 under SGST. So total comes onto 59,000. Okay. Now suppose if the same problem was inclusive GST. Now here instead of exclusive, if the same problem was inclusive GST, let us see how it is to be done. So the same problem considering it to be inclusive GST or taxes. Collection of amount of GST to be paid by Mr. Kumar. Invoice value is already given 50,000. Now this 50,000 considering it to be inclusive GST means in this 50,000 you have the transaction value also, you have the GST amount also. So you need to bifurcate how much is the transaction value and how much is the GST amount. So how do you calculate the GST amount? We know that is amount inclusive GST divided by 100 plus rate of GST into the rate of GST. So you get 7,627. Now since the sale is taking place in the state, 50% of this amount goes to SGST and 50% of this amount goes to SGST. So 50% of 7,627 is 3,813. 3,813. Now transaction value. Transaction value is nothing but either you can minus 50,000 from the tax amount, you will get the basic price, or we have the formula, that is amount inclusive GST divided by 100 plus rate of GST into 100. So out of this 50,000, 42,373 is your basic amount and 7,627 is your GST amount. The total is nothing but 50,000. Next, moving to problem number 2. Rohit Enterprises sells its products from Aurangabad to a distributor of Indore at a value of 75,550 exclusive tax. Now, Rohit Enterprises is a seller who is from Aurangabad and he is selling it to a distributor who is at Indore. So here Aurangabad belongs to the state of Maharashtra, Indore belongs to the state of Madhya Pradesh. Now these are two different states. So when the sale is taking place outside the state, you charge IGST. Now it is clearly given exclusive tax. So we know that this is the transaction values on still which we have to charge GST. So transaction value is already given 75,550. You're going to charge IGST. Now the rate is 12%, and we know when it is interstate, we charge 100% of the GST rate that is mentioned. So IGST at the rate of 12%. GST is always charged on the transaction value. Therefore, 75,550 into 12%, you get 9,066. So what is the total invoice value? Total invoice value will be 75,550 plus 9,066 is nothing but 84,616. That will be collected by Rohit Enterprises from the distributor. Now suppose if the same amount is inclusive GST. So we know that invoice value is 75,550, which means that this 75,550 is having the GST component also inside it. So we have to remove the GST component, we have to remove the transaction value or basic value. So here GST component how to remove is amount inclusive GST, that is 75,550 divided by 100 plus rate of GST into rate of GST. And how to know the transaction value is amount inclusive GST divided by 100 plus rate of GST into 100. Next, problem number 3. Amar, a wholesaler from Mumbai, sells the equipments to Ranveer of Pune for worth rupees 18,000 and also sells spare parts to a dealer in Bangalore for rupees 45,000. So Amar is a seller. Now he's selling to two parties. One is he's selling equipment to Ranveer of Pune. So when he's selling the equipment, so from Mumbai, he's selling to some party in Pune. So the sale is within the state. So within the state for this particular transaction, he will charge CGST and SGST. Now he also sells some spare part to a dealer in Bangalore. Now Mumbai and Bangalore are two different, comes under two different states. So for this particular transaction of 45,000, Amar is going to charge IGST. And both are exclusive taxes. Now suppose if this was not mentioned, you could have assumed it to be exclusive taxes provided inclusive of taxes is not specifically mentioned. So calculate the total GST to be paid by Amar to the government, and the rate on equipment is 18% and spare parts is 12%. So simply it is very simple. Particulars working, Ranveer and the dealer. So transaction value is already given 18,000 and 45,000. Now this is exclusive taxes, so means we need to charge GST on this transaction value. We know that the transaction with Ranveer is within the state, so we are going to charge CGST at the rate of 9% and SGST at the rate of 9% because the rate on equipment is 18%. And when the sale takes place in the state, 50% goes to CGST, 50% goes to SGST. The rate is always charged on the transaction value. Therefore, 18% into 9, 18,000 into 9% is 1,620, 1,620. For the next is IGST at the rate of 12%. It is always charged on the transaction value. And we know that the GST rate on the spare parts is 12%. So 45,000 into 12% you get is 5,400. So the total invoice values means always the transaction value plus the GST rate. So it is 21,240 in case of Ranveer, and in case of dealer Amar is going to collect 50,400. Now how much is the amount Amar is going to pay to the government? Amar is going to keep the transaction value with itself and only pay the GST taxes to the government. So he is going to pay 16,1620 plus 1620. That amounts to 3,240 that is going to collect from Ranveer, and from the dealer he is collecting a GST of 5,400. So totally how much he is going to pay to the government? Add this both. GST amount to be paid by Amar to the government is collected by Ranveer 3,240, collected by dealer 5,400. So total GST paid by Amar to the government is 8,640 rupees. Let us move to the next problem. Arihan, dealer of Kolhapur, sells a vehicle to Vega dealer of Belagavi. Now, Arihan dealer is in Kolhapur. So, Kolhapur comes under the state of Maharashtra. Here, the dealer is in Belagavi. So, it comes under the state of Karnataka. So, obviously, Arihant is going to charge IGST. Now, calculate the total invoice value. Total invoice value matlab the transaction value plus the GST rate. So the total amount what Arihant is going to collect from the Vega dealer. If rate of GST is 28% and compensation cess is 15%. See, wherever compensation cess is there, it will be specifically mentioned in the problem. You need not put your head into whether a particular transaction compensation cess will be levied or no. It will be mentioned in the problem if it is to be levied. So now how do we do this? Transaction value is already given 5 lakh. Since nothing is mentioned inclusive exclusive taxes, we assume it to be exclusive taxes. You're going to charge IGST. You know why we are charging IGST? Because it is an interstate transaction. 28%. So 5 lakh into 28%, you get 1 lakh 40. Compensation cess. Compensation cess is always charged at 100% of whatever rate is mentioned. So rate mentioned is 15%. And compensation cess is always charged again on the transaction value. So 5 lakh into 15%, you get 75,000. So the total amount of GST, the total invoice amount is going to be 5 lakh plus 1 lakh 40,000 plus 75,000. So that is 7 lakh 15,000 that is going to be collected by Arihan from the Vega dealer of Belagavi. Now let us move to the next problem. Ari Enterprises sells its products from due demand to a local recipient at a value of 50,000. The applicable GST rate is 12%. Calculate the amount of GST to be paid by Ari Enterprises. So Ari Enterprises is selling the products is belonging to due and demand and to a local recipient, means the purchaser also is from due and demand. Now any sale in due and demand is nothing but a union territory. So sale is happening within the union territory. So when sale happens within the territory, which is the GST tax that you're going to charge, it is CGST and UTGST. So since nothing is mentioned whether it is inclusive or exclusive, we are going to charge as exclusive tax. So transaction value is already given 50,000. So you're going to add CGST at the rate of 6% and UTGST at the rate of 6%, because since it is happening within the union territory, whatever rate it is, GST rate 12%, 50% goes to the center and 50% goes to the union territory. So 50,000 into 6%, 50,000 into 6%. So the total invoice value is nothing but 50,000 plus 3,000 plus 3,000 is 56,000. Now what is the amount Array Enterprises is going to pay to the government? It is the only that amount which it is going to collect from the customer as taxes. So it is collecting 6,000 as taxes. So obviously GST paid by Array Enterprises to the government will be 6,000 rupees. So under module number 2, students, what you need to understand is what type of GST taxes will be levied. If it is inclusive and exclusive taxes, how are you going to calculate? And what is the, even if a particular rate is given, what is the percentage you're going to charge under CGST, SGST, IGST, and what is, if it is an inclusive GST, exclusive GST, what is the treatment you're going to give? If you're clear with this concept, you can solve any problem relating to module number 2, because you under VTU syllabus only simple problems are covered. So by this we have covered different types of problems under module number 2. So thank you, students. We have completed and the problems relating to module number 2. In our succeeding video lectures, we will be seeing the problems relating to module number 3. Thank you so much, students.